Hello, and happy 317, I think it is. And welcome to the Spotlight AEW Revolution review. I'm Benno.
And I'm Gareth.
As people, video viewers will have just seen in the video version, coming soon, a new show coming to Grapple, revealed yesterday on 316. The big holiday, Gareth, coming from the brains behind Retro. You and Matty are going stone cold crazy, I'm told, in the upcoming months.
I'm still shocked there because I wasn't expecting you to play that video at the start of the show.
It was supposed to autoplay and it didn't. So that little weird second you got when it was just stuck on both of our faces, kind of just staring at the camera blankly. That was me quickly click and play on it and getting it to go. So it's not a nice surprise, but cracking video you put together there, mate. So yeah, let's get it out there, get it in the wild.
Good. Big thanks to Platt sharing the Stone Cold Crazy music there from his Metallica. His Metallica download session after the show we did on that one, just to get the audio nice and clean there, be able to do that. But yeah, just something me and Matty have been cooking up for a while, and just we've been holding back and thinking, yeah, 316 day, what better day to launch the fact that we're going to be doing this? So yeah, the plan is that given that old Stone Cold didn't have actually that long a career, the plan is to take this on a month-by-month basis and start all the way back in March 1996 with those first appearance of Stone Cold. So literally no ringmaster stuff or anything like that. It is from the moment he becomes Stone Cold and seeing it right through to the end, month by month by month. So signed up, bit of a commitment there for the next 3 years or 4 years or something like that, but gonna have a lot of fun along the way doing it.
Garrett's grapple contract now runs through what would you say, 2032? Is that like the real cut? Oh no, it's probably a bit later than that, isn't it? You got to consider, like, Commissioner Stone Cold's in the run with him coming out with the as the commissioner beating up all the undercard heels, as I often say to Matty, and making a complete show of himself in O2 as top heel in the company as well. Like that's the proper stuff. You need to get there and cover it in full detail. Then you can cover like the Stone Cold Steve Austin podcast of years, where it was just weird in that era where every wrestler has got a podcast now. But when it wasn't like that, and it was Colt Cabana, and there was only a couple of names out there, and it was just cool that you could hear Steve Austin's voice in your ears. Feel like you could cover that as well. Maybe a bit of him and Ted farming, hunting, shooting, that type of thing. He was too busy for Raw this week, wasn't he? Didn't show because he was doing some race thing or something like that. He keeps himself busy, does Steve? Never rest on his laurels. Loads of material.
He's got a life, hasn't he? That's what's good about Steve. He's not just restricted to the wrestling business. So
unlike us.
Unlike
Simon says here, you retired like 5 years ago, mate. You're still here.
I retired from Spotlight. That's what I retired from, having to watch Raw and WWE pay-per-views and having an opinion. But yeah, unlike old Mark Calloway, Steve can say no, can't he? He doesn't have to turn up to get 50 quid in his back pocket and a hot dog to fucking choke slam somebody or something like that. He can turn up on his own terms and do what he wants. But yeah, going to be covering the golden era, and just actually, as you were saying there about how long I'm handcuffed for there, I was just suddenly starting to do the maths, and I was thinking like, shit, August 98, it'll be like my 50th birthday. I'll be doing Steve Austin podcast with what he was up to in August 1998. So yeah, there you go. What fun.
There'll be all kinds of time comparisons. Matty trying to figure out what Steve was doing at the current age and current date you are. There's loads of tie-ins there. You're getting some grief in the chat there. Yeah, you are currently on Spotlight. We didn't want to let you go, Gareth, and Matty knows the secret sauce to keep you around. It's retro and it's more stuff on Steve. But all seriousness, I can't wait to listen to it. Obviously, it's been something you've had in the plans for a while as well. So obviously, we covered in a little bit of detail some of those early Steve Austin stuff in WWF over on Benno and Hamlet, but I know the level of detail you two are going to be going into pretty much every Stone Cold will be unturned during that run. So I can't wait to hear it.
Yeah, sorry, I'm just laughing at Simon saying I'll be as old as General Adnan when the series finished.
Have you got over that yet?
I might get a beret and grow a little muzzy for the occasion or something like that, just for the final episode. But yeah, it's going to be a good one. And I think somebody in the chat, I think Mark Buckledy asked about Retro. Plan is Retro has kind of fallen probably back to being sort of every 6 weeks, I would say, probably on average. So plan is we'll just try and stick to that really. So it's not going to, retro won't be a monthly thing, but you should still get like 8-9 episodes a year of retro. No plans to quit that one. So yeah, that one will keep going, as I said, until Bill Goldberg turns up at my house and kicks me in the head. Plan on being up to retro episode 121 and things like that.
Amazing.
So yeah,
Retros forever, not just for Christmas. So yeah, looking forward to that continuing as well. But yeah, stay tuned to the Patreon for the releases of those shows. But outside that, should mention as well where the General Adnan joke came from. We did do Fed and Breakfast over the weekend, which was Sam Mulvaney's idea to go through pretty much the wrestling TV in the build to WrestleMania 7 in 1991. And also, of course, we couldn't help ourselves, but go through WrestleMania 7 and go through the highs and lows of it. Unfortunately, we didn't have you on the show, Gareth, but I don't know if you've had a chance to listen yet. I know you had started the homework just for fun at that point. We thought we could tempt you in, but did you manage to catch any of it?
Unfortunately, time got the better of me with the homework, and not managed to catch the show yet. I've been all consumed with trying to catch up with AEW for this particular show this evening. So no chance of any audio creeping its way in there. But yeah, to be honest, I was gutted to miss the show because it's just right my time period. WrestleMania 7, probably one of the most watched WrestleManias that I've got, was the first. While I had WrestleMania 5 taped off Sky, WrestleMania 7 was the first WrestleMania I owned on VHS, I think. So again, it's one of those that was just played to death as a kid. So yeah, plenty of thoughts and takes on that one, and just gutted that I wasn't on the show to be able to share them. But absolutely looking forward to getting into that, because just some all-timer angles and building up into it. So yeah, I can't wait to hear you lads discuss them.
Oh yeah, we had a great time talking it all. I had a great time just sitting there with a nice little coffee and just going through that TV, and just that's the thing, like growing up as a kid watching, obviously I think 1991, I still can never pinpoint it. What was like the first day my cousin John, came over with a tape that had the Mountie versus Big Boss Man on it, and it got me into wrestling. I was fascinated with the fact that they wore boots, and what were wrestling boots, I think was the first thing that pulled me into wrestling. I don't know what that says about me, but I'd never know what the match was or when to pinpoint it, but sounds like it was around 1991. But as we always say when we were kids watching this stuff, or at least me and Matty a few years younger than you, all we're doing is watching tapes. We don't know what time period any of this stuff was coming from. We'll watch like WrestleMania 7, and then we'll watch WrestleMania 9, and then we're watching WrestleMania 4, and that's kind of how it is. So I never lived through like watching the TVs from that period, and that was obviously the crux of Simon's idea. There's a million retro Raw podcast. We've got a little show, Raw Roulette, where even we go through it. We've done retro nitros, but like actually seeing the challenges and the superstars of the time, and seeing it all in context, and seeing that actually there were actually some decent competitive matches on those shows as well. Maybe drop the word decent, but like Earthquake and Tugboat was one of the matches that was on there. I was like, I thought they were just job matches. That's how I kind of half remembered it from the bits I'd seen. There was a little bit more meat to the bone than I would have thought during that period, especially it being WrestleMania time. It's just scratch the itch for me now that I want to go back, and I'd love to do a year of that stuff and just go through the TV and see it all in context. There's just some brilliant stuff there. The angles, a bit repetitive, Once you've seen one shouty Sergeant Slaughter promo, you've seen them all. But like some of the stuff, Paul Bearer being introduced to something we talked on that show, like say the Mountie being introduced around that time is something we talked on that show. There's so much good stuff.
Yeah, and that's it, isn't it? And it, as well as obviously just that good layout of format of the shows, it is just that pure nostalgia hit where it's almost like you're almost not viewing it as seriously as you would be when you're watching an episode of Dynamite or something like that, and you're judging it on the fucking work rate as well and everything like that goes with it, and show long stories and week to week and all this kind of thing. It's just like,
hey, Greg Valentine versus Dino Bravo was a 2.5-star match if I've ever seen it, mate. And that was in old money. That's a 4-star now, 100%.
It's just it is one of those where it's like what you say there, just sit back with a coffee, and it's just enjoy it. Just get that kind of like dopamine hit of just old wrestling that you just like loved as a kid, and it's I'm not going to say it's meaningless kind of thing like some of it, but it's just like it's just there for your little like little reminders and little kind of like just taking you back of when the world was different. Some of those angles where something would be shot and then you'd see the same clip on Superstars as on Challenge, as then on Prime Time and things like that, as they just, laid out. But it didn't matter because it was just wrestling sort of thing. So even if you got to see the same angle 3 times, you were still buzzing because you were just watching wrestling, and any wrestling was good to get in front of your eyes at that time period. Like, sure. But yeah, Dino Bravo's never getting more than 0.25 for any match that he has in his entire life for me, mate.
He couldn't do much with babyface Greg Valentine. That's all I'll tell you in 91 WWF. But yeah, that was a lot of fun. Great palate cleanser to obviously get into what we are here to talk about today. It's been a busy period of watching wrestling. I was up late last night watching stuff and recording for a little podcast called Benno and Hamlet that you might see return soon to the airwaves. But yeah, I wanted to ask how you got on watching, jumping from all that stuff to watching AEW Revolution and prep for the show today. Usually we talk about, what's Garrett's viewing habits been, what's his thoughts been on AEW TV over the last while, but we did have your own weekend show this week on the Patreon, so we got got the Gareth catch up there, but yeah, I do know from behind the scenes it was a bit of a battle for you to get this show done and ready for today. A little bit a harder task than watching 45 minutes of wrestling challenge from back in the day. It's going to happen when Tony Khan gives you the 4.5-hour pay-per-view plus a pre-show, which you managed to squeeze in as well. I was very lucky, obviously over there in Vietnam. 7 a.m. start for the pay-per-view. It was a bit of a struggle because some nights I go to bed at 7 a.m. Again, podcast schedules can affect such things. But I did managed to rewatch a little bit of it today between naps. Not to make you jealous, Gareth, but you managed to squeeze the overwhelming majority of it in today. It is hard when you've got real lives and kids to look after and other stuff going on that aren't Tony Khan pay-per-views.
Yeah, and that's it with it. That's where I'm always so much of a advocate of those Saturday night pay-per-views, because then you've got that Sunday, where you've got no work and things like that to try. Even if you can squeeze in half a show on the Sunday the following day, if you've not sat up for it or things, you can feel like you can get ahead of the game. But knew I was in the office yesterday for work. Knew I was going to be fucking leaving at the house at 5:30 to get to Manchester. Knew I'd be getting home at 7 p.m. So then there was about an hour of life to fit in yesterday evening before I was falling asleep. And it was what did I choose to do? Make a start on the main pay-per-view or watch 0 Hour? Yeah, I went straight to 0 Hour.
Completes us to the end.
Probably wasn't the best idea to go straight to that, but a few things on there I was intrigued and interested about, as we were saying on the weekend show the other day. So yeah, trying to sneak in 4.5 to 5 hours worth of pay-per-view today in and around life stuff and work stuff and things. It's been a bit of a challenge, but just about got there, mate. One of the matches I didn't manage to see, but it was the lowest on my totem pole anyway of things to watch too. So yeah, I was pleased when you told me that nothing of any consequence happened in that match, so I didn't need to worry about that one. So you can fly solo on that one.
It's great. Got to give 5 stars. That one, it's the War Dogs match. I'm not. But we'll get to that at the end. I did say as well, it'll probably be the last thing we cover, because we should start at the top. We'll talk the main event first that you put in the work to get there and get it watched. And obviously, Hangman Page versus MJF. Texas Death is the last thing I imagine you've seen here, and it was the last thing that I've just seen on rewatch. Should have made it a bit as well as playing the Stone Cold Crazy video there. Should have got a bit of blood on my camera or something like that to copy the spot they did there. But a few people said in prep for this, the great thing about doing these shows with you, mate, is you go dark when you've got a long pay-per-view to work through, and the longer it takes you to work through the pay-per-view, the less you know what's going on in the real world. I think you are aware we're in the middle of World War III, but I think what you're not aware of is the divisiveness of this main event. I think spoilers, most people overwhelmingly, myself included, massively positive on the pay-per-view overall, and lots of talk about this being one of the great AEW pay-per-views, but I think the biggest bone of contention has been this main event. Obviously, the stipulation's a big part of that with MJF going over, like I say, with that very memorable camera spot there, and Hangman Page. You won't have seen Gareth in the presser. Tony Khan, when pushed about the Hangman Page stipulation, answered that it was a verbal contract, and that was all he was willing to say on the matter. Kind of, leaving that little room for maneuver that I don't think we talked about it, didn't we, in the build to it. There was no good outcome here as far as that went. You've either got MJF losing the world title this early, or you've got Hangman Page, out of the world title scene, and I'm not even sure that latter part is happening, which again is driving a lot of the discourse over the last 24 hours. But before we can get into that, what did you make it as an overall match? It was a long main event, following at a very long show. They went the old ultra-violence route, some big memorable spots in there, one of which behind your head there with the sticks stuck into MJF's head, the bamboo sticks, and all of the other craziness, the fake glass that they used in there as well. And yeah, a lot of big time spots in there. MJF doing his full Terry Funk impression as well, right down to the gear too. Unless he was doing a Chris Candido, we're a little bit split on which it is. But yeah, what did you make of the matches, some of its parts, and I guess we can get into the outcome and everything coming out of it.
It's interesting. Like it's as interesting for me going in cold, and literally not knowing what the wider discourse is about the match. I don't know. Like if I'm almost like approaching it with overall thoughts, it was. I don't know if I want to say it was a letdown kind of thing, because I'm not sure what I expected, but I think it went too long. I think definitely, and that's not just me trying to cram wrestling in. That's me trying to kind of watch it and like appreciate what they're trying to do. I think because it went so long and because they tried to do so much, and obviously there was that kind of like escalation in terms of what they were doing, a lot of it then felt a bit, I don't know, felt a bit meaningless kind of thing. It felt like meaningless violence, a lot of it. Whereas I think in the past, where there's been other matches of this ilk in AEW, the level of violence has felt like it's maybe made sense a little bit more, and and maybe the escalation of it during the match. I can, thinking of the stuff with Swerve and things, it felt more like right and appropriate kind of thing, whereas a lot of this just felt it did, there was a point where MJF shouted down the camera, "I'm not doing any of that indie shit," and I was thinking, like, literally feel like I'm watching a GCW opener at certain points here, where there's just two lads in there just doing crazy stuff just because kind of thing. I don't know, it felt like for such an extreme level of violence, actually, between the violent spots, it didn't feel like the dots that held it together had that level of hatred and kind of, John Service in the chat there, intensity, taking that word off my tongue, and I think it started exactly like that as well, because when they did that sort of brawl into the crowd at the start, I was like, there's no energy here, there's no heat kind of thing, I'm not feeling any hate. I'm not feeling any pace about it. There's that pullback of a bit of aggression or something like that, where surely this now should feel really intense, this brawl into the crowd, and that is what it felt like in between the crazy spots for me for 45 minutes, which then led, kind of put that feeling of a bit meaninglessness of some of it sort of into it really, and like, so it was way below matches of this level as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, for me, it's like, and again, there's going to be people out there, and we know we originated the Sickos label. It wasn't Tony Khan; it came from us. I know overwhelmingly people love this show, and I know when you love a show and you go and you listen to a review, and it's like, oh yeah, it wasn't as good as all you think. It can be shit audio at times. So I can promise you, I've got a lot of praise coming for the rest of the show, because there's loads of this show that I absolutely loved. Unfortunately, and I almost ummed and ahed with you before we started here about starting with this, because it is the thing I'm lowest on the show. I just wasn't feeling this one, and I tried to go back and watch it again today. You can make jokes about Benno getting up at 7 a.m. and flagging by the end of a 4.5 hour pay-per-view, but I was while I was watching it live. I've got a charmed life. I'm not complaining. I got a £1.50 bar me and a salt coffee, and was having a great little morning. But it was less me being tired. It was more, the end of a 4.5 hour show, and it was a little bit hard for me personally to kind of focus and get into it. So I rewatched it today. I rewatched it right before we've gone here to kind of go, okay, let's watch it again. Let's, obviously knowing the divisive rhetoric out there. And that was exactly my feeling. Like you said, it's like, I think we were consistent with it because we talked about it on Weekend Show, and I've been talking about it for weeks in this feud. Like there's just an unearned level of like anger that Hangman's had towards MJF that has never made sense with the story that they're telling, and never felt like, especially with the stipulation behind this, which, I mean, I guess it is personal, but it's more of a professional thing, isn't it? The fact that he can't go for the title again, it's more that than it is like that it has felt like a personal blood feud, even though it's had some echoes of it. It felt OTT. It didn't feel like Swerve and Hangman doing this when they, purely hate each other, or, the Moxley version of this match, which again felt a bit more like purely hated. This just felt a little bit like, and he did it, like, again, you won't have seen it, MJF going on Twitter going, see, now I've had the best dog collar match ever, questionable. I've also had the best Texas death match ever. There was another one he threw in there as well. I can't remember what it was. I think it was an Iron Man match. Don't remember him having an Iron Man match, but apparently he thinks he had the best one ever. Like, this was not that, but it was clearly his attempt at that. Even down to the Terry Funk pants, which is just, I don't feel like that's MJF heel work for me. That feels like Max wanting to make everybody know that he's actually in real life, really, he's a Terry Funk fan. Really, he's not the character, really, he understands this stuff, and he's gonna, like you said, GCW, it's more of a CZW thing. Obviously, he spent a lot of time in CZW, and that's where the influence came from to do a lot of these spots, and I guess he has this side to his game, or at least a willingness to kind of do that side of it as well, but it did feel a bit inauthentic, it did feel a bit cosplay, it did feel a bit the boy not protest too much. It was very try hard for me as a match, and I think the stipulation part of it as well. I've not been high on the stipulation. Like I say, the outcome of the stipulation, especially Tony Khan throwing cold water on it, also bleeds into that negativity. But yeah, I know there are some that love this one. It was the cherry on top to a great pay-per-view, which of course we're going to get into. But for me, it just didn't connect, and it didn't second time watch that either. And I think that speaks to this feud and story as a whole, as much as I actually think MJF's been a net positive on the TV, with some very, very, very big exceptions over the last couple of months.
Yeah, and as well, like, it just felt out of place for the MJF character as well, this match, in the style that this match was worked, because in theory, Texas Death wasn't something that he wanted at all, and we go to the extent of have a double-sided coin to get out of it, and then be absolutely terrified with fear about it when that was announced as what the match was going to be. But then yet he's still bringing it in this match to every level, like right from with the window at the start, and then like putting the glass like in the middle of the ring, and I was thinking, why would MJF do that? Why would MJF, when he doesn't want to be in this style of match, just sort of like release a load of glass to the middle of the ring? That then is just at the earliest possible point, almost like heightened the extent of the level of danger that there could be in the ring here. And
do you want to know why? Because he had an idea for a funny spot where he got a broom and he cleared it out. That's exactly why. The fake glass, which again, it's not an original point. I'm not saying they should, I don't know whether it's a fair criticism or not, but like glass that was very clearly fake in the end anyway. This wasn't CZW or GCW where you've got like a million cuts in your back. It was prop glass, of course.
Yeah, but just elements of that didn't then make sense. So you're kind of in this world where, like, this, I don't know, the character stuff doesn't seem to land perfectly. The intensity between the two, from a feud point of view, doesn't seem to land to need this level of match. Then the bits in between the spots not sort of lining up as well. It just felt massively disjointed on a lot of levels to me. And then I'm not somebody who I'll always say, like, I'm not a deathmatch guy at all, kind of thing. But I do love violence in wrestling, and I do love people taking it massively far and to extremes when it feels justified to do so. And again, because there wasn't that level of justification, it didn't feel like that was involved in this. Actually, then the sort of some of the more gross spots, they did feel a bit more kind of gross as well. And I'm not like, nothing like that turns my stomach, but I was just like, Why are you
we haven't
doing?
mentioned the syringe, have we?
I was just like, why are you doing that kind of thing? Like, you're doing that just because kind of thing. Like, and it's, but we've seen that before. We've seen it before in a situation where it did feel justified, and then it felt nastier and it felt horrible when it happened, kind of thing. Whereas, like you say, this just felt a bit try hard. It felt a bit too set up in terms of everything that came. It never felt like it was that natural escalation of violence. So yeah, it just largely disappointing. And if you're saying that's the line in the Prezza, then like you just like, I think, when we talked on the weekend show about it was like, okay, well, if
he must have a good idea, he must.
We're like, yeah, there's clearly some thought here towards this stip that never got used for Cody, and it's something that's going to get used now for Hangman or something. Like, well, doesn't sound like it by those accounts. And so yeah, we almost felt a little bit like you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't, with the finish of either winner of this either of this match. So yeah, I don't know. It kind of, and to be honest, I talked about it on Weekend Show too. The level of crowd reaction for Hangman, certainly at the start of this match, when he comes to the ring, he's on the apron, he's lifting his arm and things like that. There's no fucking crowd reaction still, kind of thing, in a crowd here that had been pretty decent at points through the entirety of this show. So it does almost feel like maybe the best thing for Hangman at the minute, having cut his legs off with the title change, is for him to just go away for a bit, kind of thing. But then you're like, how the fuck have we got here? It kind of almost feels like Hangman needs to go away from being the biggest star in the company to now somebody who's so cold that, like, what's he even going to do on your television? Like, bizarre.
I'm not sure, like, because, and again, the whole it's a verbal contract thing, I think that opens up for maybe, he grows a mustache back and he goes heel again. Like, that was great. I love that run, but it feels very soon to ever go back to that. Like you say, there should be a lot more goodwill in the tank for Hangman, based on, how important he was the last year and how great the chase was and all that stuff. But as a babyface right now, yeah, you're right. Maybe some time off makes sense. Maybe, some kind of stipulation where a heel like MJF, the technicalities of it, he doesn't challenge for the title, but the whoever the champion is challenges him, and maybe that's the route they're going to go through. Maybe that was Tony's brilliant idea for how they were going to eventually get around the Cody thing as well. But they booked themselves into a corner with no good outcomes, really. And like I say, the match itself, I accept there's people who enjoyed it and liked it. This was very much a variety show of a AEW show, and you got every bit of pretty much every type of AEW style match you could probably want. And this is something they do go back to the well on, but it did feel like something they went back to the well on too soon. Even down to Danielson on the commentary being like, I don't want to see another one of these matches for a while. It felt like a shoot comment, to be honest. It felt like maybe if he was in the creative room or whatever they call it at AEW, he was outvoted on what they did here. But yeah, it wasn't bad. It was just, it was there. And you shouldn't be saying that about a match that went so far as a main event goes. But hey, the spot on the camera, replay that for years. I still think that was an all-timer. That's a positive if you want one from me on the match. And yeah, outside of that, it's more just question mark coming out of it with the booking, unless you've got more on it.
Yeah, and just as you say there about like the idea of a Hangman heel turn, you're like, well, yeah, don't turn Swerve then. Kind of, then put them back on the same, same side of the coin. So, one way or another. It just, I don't know. It does feel like it's the most questionable booking that I've seen in a long time. Is the booking of Hangman Page from him since the moment he lifted that title in such a great moment. So, as we always say, we'll wait and see what tomorrow brings. But yeah, I'm not feeling particularly positive about it.
Well, we'll circle back round if we have any other thoughts. We'll get to it when we run through the rest of the card. But let's go from the top. As you say, you did watch the Zero Hour. There's some great stuff earlier on this pay-per-view. I'm not sure if it took place on the Zero Hour, but I'm sure you got as much fun out of it, Boom and Doom, as I did with Wayne. What's his name? What was it? Whose line is it anyway that he used to be on? Wayne Brady, is that his name? He was obviously a key part. The way they set that spot up was very, very, very well done. So there is at least that with Shane Taylor taking the big bump for Big Boom AJ and Big Justice with the spear on the outside. Very much the match that you would expect with Boom and Doom out there. But any thoughts on that, the Willow Nightingale match, or anything on the Battle Royal, which coincidentally, once again, third pay-per-view in a row, spilled into the main show, which is just an idea AEW are in love with right now, so we're just doing it every show at this point.
Yeah, I mean, they're just the perfect warm-up, aren't they? To have just on a 0 hour, just get the crowd going, get a QT and old Big Boom AJ out there, and just have a match that it largely wouldn't feel out of place, tagged on one of those episodes of Wrestling Challenge or something like that that you watched. I've been there live
when I was at I think it was the New Jersey show me and stuff went to. Like, genuinely, it was like the crowd were, I don't know, it just felt like it's the perfect match to wake people up and get people just kind of used. It's like it's been a big conversation about Everton and Hill Dickinson. People are sat next to strangers and they don't want to shout or cheer as much as they used to at Goodison Park when they knew the people next to them. You can get that in an arena, can't you? You can kind of feel a little bit like, I don't want to start a chant, or I haven't had enough beers to get involved. They are the perfect tag team, or at least the Big Boom AJ side of it is to get you going and get you just losing your inhibitions and getting these crowds going. Like, I'd have them open in every pay-per-view 0 hour, and I know I'm now a Danhausen fan, so I'm probably lowering my stock even further when it comes to the types of wrestlers I like, but I think they're absolutely harmless on these pre-shows, and like you say there, it's even QT Marshall does his job well in these spots.
Do you know what though? It's proper it's proper professional wrestling stuff though, isn't it, kind of thing, because the crowd do get up, kind of thing, like when the ref stopped the dive for AJ, and then that just meant that then later on when he did come off the top with the splash, like
psychology,
fucking losing his shit, kind of thing. It's just basic professional wrestling, like just following that kind of logical, get the crowd fucking into it, and then like a couple of high spots towards the end to get them off the chair, and they did. Like, they absolutely fucking popped them. I think there was probably more positive reactions for this than the last match when I was watching it live there, in terms of crowd reactions as well. So can't fault that at all. I mean, the Willow match, I just thought, we talked about it the other day on Weekend Show in preparation for this, and talked about how I just needed to just get away from Ali Cameron, kind of thing, and it just felt like that in the delivery, this just felt like the perfect set up to do that in the end, by having this match on the pre-show where you're getting Willow to defend the title and keep hold of this one, as she should be doing, but then working that injury angle. I think you said on Weekend Show, we're probably expecting this to maybe like bleed straight into the tag, but I think it was clear that there's going to be something here that ends up being a setup for what came in the main show. So I mean, as much as it was a match, it was an angle, wasn't it, really, just to put the Willow shoulder injury in place to then justify losing the titles, later on, that we'll obviously talk about as we get a bit closer to that. But as a match, I thought it was solid enough. I'm not sure where I sit on Lena Cross yet. I've only, I haven't seen her loads. I'm not like, she didn't jump across as been like, all right, she's absolutely kind of up here, ready for where she needs to be. Her timing felt a little bit off. I don't know, something about a movement in ring and things like that didn't feel great. But told a decent enough little story here to feed into the match later. So no complaints on that one from my point of view.
Any complaints on your boy Jungle Jack winning the national title? I don't think when we previewed it, I think I knew. I'm pretty sure I mentioned the name Ricochet, but I just don't think even in talking about it, it fully computed that this was actual title defense and not a number one contenders match. So, I mean, for all it matters, Ricochet is no longer the national champion for, everything that comes involved in that as well. But, I mean, obviously there's the nice story of, Jack Perry in LA, and, they obviously played and played on, the stuff with going to shows with his dad, there as well, and all of that stuff. But, yeah, bit of a surprise for me that this is the way to get the belt off Ricochet, but I assume that feud will continue.
Yeah, it's I suppose it protects Ricochet a bit, doesn't it? Kind of, flipping it here and just helps things continue a bit. Like I just generally like battle royals. Like I just really, really enjoy battle royals. Like in the main, even if it's just like loads of people in there not doing much. And this was the antithesis of a battle royal that I enjoy. Like, I really, really didn't enjoy this match. It was absolutely doing my head in. Everybody just been
Everyone
on the outside,
and
then two people popping in to do their little like 3-minute bit that they'd worked with each other, and then they'd disappear, and somebody else. Honestly, it was driving me around the bend. I was like, can you not all just get in the ring and just throw some punches and elbows in the corner and things like that? I don't want to see these little sort of rehearsed spots that you've got going across different people. I had no idea who was still involved in the match. I had no idea who'd been eliminated. I'm certain that there's people who hadn't been eliminated who were still involved at the end, and for time purposes, it just almost went like, oh yeah, just fuck it, you're out, like without some kind of elimination. I thought it was preposterous, and I never want to see Jack Perry win anything in life in general, kind of thing. So didn't feel like a good wholesome story for me at the end there. It felt like someone who shouldn't even be on the card, someone who shouldn't even be in the building, walking away with a beautiful looking title there at the end, title belt at the end there. So look forward to Ricochet getting his revenge, and his feet fucking touched the floor as well. They definitely did. Like, I'm not having it so that when he was hanging over that top rope that his both feet didn't touch the floor, because they fucking definitely did. So if I had more time on my hands, I'd be freeze framing that along the way to try and VAR him out of his title win. But yeah, fuck Jack Perry.
Well, on that note, that moves us into the main card. Hey, at least we got a bit of Brit Res Brouillet to kick things off as far as the pre-show goes. Less said about the rest, the better. But yeah, kicking off the main cards, we have the FTR versus Young Bucks, and as we talked about on weekend show, a surprisingly well-built match, I thought, as far as the history of FTR and Young Bucks matches go. I like the disposition of FDR as the full heels with Stokely. I think this is the most Stokely for me has ever worked as a character in wrestling. I love those guys as a trio. Bucks have felt like new men as a tag team, and felt like this carried over to the match as well. I absolutely fucking love this as an opener. Again, watched it live. It was the first thing I saw when I got up, and again rewatched it again today, and did actually get even a slight tear in my eye at seeing the Bucks come out with all the kids from the family and such like that. Maybe as the dad, you might have a similar feeling in seeing that as well. But thought that played well into the match. The history, the story they've told with the lost young buck. Considering we're in PWG territory, love to see, Malachi Black. I was going to say that's Malachi Black. That's another book. Could come out there.
I'm glad he wasn't there.
Wouldn't have helped things at all. But yes, using the drink involved and throwing it as well. And yeah, lots of. It felt like one of those matches where it was the best of both teams. You got a bit of Young Bucks silliness with the dives and the extra creative, spots that you had in there, but you also got a bit of that FDR gritty tag team realism. Even the spot I mentioned there with the drink in the face was a great setup for obviously the miscommunicated dive for FTR with Wheeler getting doing the flattening there as well. Like, I just thought it really gelled in a way that FTR and Young Bucks matches haven't in AEW, and I feel like this. I can't think of a better match they've had as two teams in AEW. Maybe somebody can tell me otherwise, but this was the most it's worked as far as the clash of styles that comes with these two teams, and it came off the back of, I thought, a mostly well-told story and some good TV and some good character work in it. And yeah, obviously there's some negative in the post-match that I'm going to get into, at least for me personally, but I think even the outcome here leaves everybody in good places. I think the FTR tag run should continue on as a heel team. Bucks as baby faces with that other team is at least a new dynamic for whatever I might think of that other team as well. But yeah, feels like the outside of these teams, there isn't a lot going on in the AW tag division, but when it's singing like these two in this big time opener, it feels like a match that could have been like high up in the card, but was almost, again, perfect for being first out here on Revolution. It really, really got the crowd going and got me going as well watching it again today.
Yeah, I got to agree with you on this. I thought it was a great start to the show. I just think I think the structure of the match. I think that what they did with like Mick getting busted open early, and then he was almost like taken out of it for a bit, quite early on. You had like Matt doing a lot of the work there. I just thought from a heel face dynamic, I just thought that worked brilliantly, just in terms of just sort of setting up that like early pacing of the match and the way that was working there. You know, you say about the stuff that was done early on. I just think it just really helped. I just think just to set up that babyface heel dynamic, and might be too cheesy for some people getting the family involved. You know, it was right down to old school wrestling tricks of the Bucks being in the Lakers colours and the FTR being in the Boston Celtics colours and things like that. Obviously for being in LA and things, it just felt right, the heel face dynamic, and it felt that way going into the pay-per-view as well between it. And if anything, I think it enhanced the heel face dynamic that you've sort of had going into this feud. That the Bucks really did feel like hometown heroes. They did feel like proper pure baby faces, and then so that just built into stuff there where, like, you know, later on you had the spots where you had that sympathy on Nick with the blood early on and things, but then when he's, you know, when he kicks out of the shatter machine, you know, when he gets his foot on the ropes after the pile driver and things, it just worked. I think little where they put the placement of spots like that they put throughout the match just totally just felt like they fit perfectly with that heel face dynamic. And then you had obviously the turn in the tables with, you know, like the Bucks hitting the shatter machine and things. It didn't feel like, sometimes that it can feel like the using their finisher feels a bit cosplay kind of thing, but actually it
we've
felt
all
like
seen Rock Austin, lads. You know?
It felt like that felt like, again, justified, like a word that I could kind of come back to. It felt like it fit kind of in the dynamic of the way that the match was built, and then into the finish with it taking like the avalanche shatter machine by FTR to get the win. Then that made sense as well. It was almost had to be an escalation of the finisher to that level to bring it home. Like, honestly, I had a great time watching this. And if you'd have told me like 3 months ago, right, we're going into the pay-per-view and it's the tag belts and it's the Bucks FTR, I'd have been like, who wants to see the Bucks FTR again? But I think it's been weirdly, it's felt really refreshing, I think, for both teams. It's the involvement of Stokely and how that dynamics impacted FTR in terms of them being feeling like genuine heels. This, you know, we criticise them in areas where stuff hasn't gone well. I think this is an area where they've really got this right with the reinvention of the Bucks, who felt dead in the water kind of on that last heel run, and then like FTR been on TV for a long time, back and forward. Just feels like they're in a good place. And I know you're going to have a totally different view to me on this, but I won't lie, but like, I didn't hate Edge and Christian, or Cope and Christian, like getting involved in there at the end. Like
Cope and Cage, actually, mate. No, sorry, Cope. Just cross it out, Cage and Cope, whatever that fucking t-shirt said. I'll give you all the pure hate in the world, so I'm glad we got the counterbalance for it.
You can go with that. Go on.
I just hate the fucking sight of the cunts, and it's mainly Cope and not Cage. So I'm never going to be reasonable on it, because I get. What I do get about it is it does feel, say this is as a three-way match, as like a three-way, whether it's a ladder match or some kind of AEW gimmick match to do instead to save Cope and Christian from potentially going through that. As a big all-in match, your big headline, 3 tag teams going against each other, like, I get it. I do get it. You know, it makes sense that there's a star level there, isn't there? And there's, again, maybe I'd rather Cope was in this, where he's like the 6th person in a feud that involves 6 wrestlers and Stokely Hathaway, than somebody taking up TV time in like a world title feud or like an upper, singles card feud as well. So I could take the positives there. I just can't stand this. The look of the cunts. I'm annoyed when people cheer for him. I'm annoyed when people pop for the music. I'm annoyed at the level of pop. It's the children who are on Gareth. It's not me, and I'm going to stand by it. But it felt big. Again, the match, the biggest thing I can say about the match is, like, again, all those creative spots were great. I just wanted to throw in, you mentioned Stokely there, like the dive, was it Nick, the dive that he did on someone, the wheelchair? Like, I literally jumped up when I saw that, like, live, and when I watched it again before, it popped me again. Perfect use of it in the match, to the point where if I had like a genuine criticism of the post-match, I don't think you needed to bump him again when it came to Cope and Cage. You could have saved that for further down the line, but a minor detail. I do get it, and yeah, it got over big in the audience. So who am I to to poo-poo it. I just can't stand that man or his theme song. As long as we don't sing it, how about that? We make that as a rule. None of that. No more sing along with Cope, and then maybe we can have some kind of a gentleman's agreement that I'll leave alone for a bit.
Yeah, that'll very quickly sell me on it. If suddenly we've got him stood in the ring with 5 people singing along to singing along.
You solve it. Play Christian's song instead. How about that? It annoyed me that he played both of their music when they came out, but when they left, it was just Cope. It's like, fuck off. Everyone prefers Christian. Come on. Even I do, and I never historically loved Christian either.
He's always got to be the A plus, hasn't he? Just above the A, old Cope.
Never been more than a B plus, mate. But anyway,
he needs to. I think this is one where if he can stay out of his own sensibilities, then this could actually be decent.
What a sentence!
But I know that Cope will, when given influence in a match with FTR and the Bucks, he's going to bring some shit ideas to the table, isn't he? And he's going to bring some shit like spots in that come back to that feeling of being contrived and just feel a bit too not in fitting with where the work should be. He can't get out of his own way sometimes, can he? And that might be the detriment of this match when it eventually comes around. They just need to kind of rein him in a little bit from that point of view. But because otherwise, again, it is just that star. It is that star factor. He still does get a pop. They were still excited in the building to see him, and the Bucks, Cope and Cage, and the FTR does feel quite big time for a tag team division that's at times felt like it's been held together by sticking plasters. And give me people who feel like stars over Private Party, for example, just having matches, doing stuff, kind of, if there's something like this that does feel, no, actually we've got some top tier people here that there's still people out there that are going to pay to see them in the building. There's still mileage there in this one I think, but I reserve the right to change my views depending on how much influence Cope has on the way this goes for in the next few weeks. When he turns up on Dynamite and gets Spike out or something like that, then I might change my views, mate. You can tell me I'm wrong.
Spike on a pole match or something like that instead of a ladder match. You're going to come up with some. Beth's going to get involved, isn't she? There's going to be some shite stuff like that. I'm never watching Money playing Andy. I refuse. Actually, we might do it one day as a film club as well. But I shouldn't let me hatred get in the way of what was a very, very good time, that opener match. And it felt like, they turned the clock a little bit back with the Young Bucks as well. And that's been their year, well, at least their last 6 months or so. So long may that continue. And long may this FTR reign continue as well. And to your point, if we are building to a big 3-way match with them, you can do the straight up tag matches with these teams, can't you? In the build up to All In, there's pay-per-views filled there, at least for the next couple. So I imagine that will be the smart booking decision. But moving on from there, another match coming up: Toni Storm and Marina Shafir. I was quite harsh on this one, actually, watching it back live, Gareth. Again, I was kind of like, I hope this is short because Marina has obviously got her limitations, and let's hope I think I even put on the Discord, I'm glad it was mercifully short. It was what it was, but I don't know what it is. Again, this was when I watched back today. I actually really loved that. I think Benno early in the morning is just usually wrong about a lot of things, and I could absolutely say as a message board there, I was wrong about this. I really enjoyed this on rewatch. I think maybe criticism still stands. Marina Shafir is not that good, and we all know she's not that good. But I think this use of her, as Moxley's second, it bears a lot of resemblance to how Chyna was utilized when she was first brought into WWF in 96, 97, and she was, getting physical and all of that stuff, and they kept her in a limited role. Like, that's what they've done with Marina. It's added to her aura, and she's, gotten over as a result of it, rather than having matches on Collision or Dynamite or whatever, which wouldn't have worked for her. So it is always a risk, I think, when you put her in a match. It was one of those matches, I think, when we went on Weekend Show through the card that maybe we would have left off as a pay-per-view match. But as far as protecting those limitations and offering something different and just allowing her to do things she can do and not do so many things that she can't do, And then also, allowing Tony Storm to do, the daft comedy with the R stuff and the biting of the tit and all of that stuff. Like, it worked really, didn't it? Good template maybe for what's to come with what we can talk about with the post match. Although you'd expect something a bit more serious there as well. But yeah, I don't know what it was on rewatch. I really enjoyed Tony Storm's work in this as far as chewing scenery and having a good time out there. And yeah, I thought they kept it simple for Marina. I don't know if that's damn with faint praise, but I think if you're going to utilize her, this is the way to utilize her. And don't think Tony Storm winning is a problem either. So yeah, enjoyed this one on rewatch.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. Like I say, I enjoyed it. I thought it was good. I thought it was good to a level. Like it was good as looking at 3 stars, but it was 3-star good kind of thing. But I just think it's to what you say there. It was the layout that worked because there's plenty. We've plenty of Ultimate Warrior matches we enjoy, kind of thing, because it's like get people to do things that they can do, as you say there. What do to start the match here with the jump start with Marina just beating like Tony down and things like that. She can do that kind of thing. That's easy stuff to do. That's not trying to get somebody to work a wrestling style that clearly they don't get to grips with there, and it feels more directly in line with the character of Marina Shafir and the way that she's been presented on TV and the way that she's physically got involved in certain things as well. It felt just joined up. And then I think on Friday I was a bit unsure about the dynamic between the Marina Shafir character and then the comedy of Tony Storm and how that was going to gel, but then it just gelled perfectly because of the type of spots that they then brought it back into, with like when Marina kicked the barricade. That was the first time she showed a bit of weakness, and Tony Storm immediately went to biting the foot kind of thing. I was just like, well, that's it's comedic from Tony Storm, but actually it's logical as well, kind of thing, that this woman's been literally kicking the shit out of you with her bare feet. That now when she's got a sore foot, like you're doing that, that type of damage coming in from that angle. So weirdly, it all made sense from that point of view. Like you say, right through to biting her on a tit when she's trying to apply the mother's milk. That's exactly what Tony Storm would do. We've had evidence of this. That is the type of person that Tony Storm is, with some of the spots that she's built into her matches like recently as well. So again, there was that like air of logic that fit in and around it as well. I thought it was interesting. I've often talked about, less so now, but it's always been like the Storm Zero has always been something that's been very well protected. When Tony had the belt, it was basically game over when you hit that. So, you had that bit of protection for Marina in that she kicked out of the Storm Zero there, which I think only a couple of people have, done so far. So that was worked in quite well there. But I did have my, despite me not literally knowing nothing, my ears perked up during the match when Nigel McGuinness referenced Judy Grable against Cyborg Santos, and I was like, Cyborg Santos? And then like my brain immediately went to, she was fighting Ronda Rousey, isn't she? And I went, oh no, it's Gina Carano. And then I had Ronda Rousey in my head, kind of thing, at that point when you mentioned that. So when things slowed down after the match, it did enter my head, is Ronda Rousey coming out here? And then she did, and then like it was weird how that sort of one reference to piece together. But that did it. I don't know, the way that was presented. I don't know how much stock there is in Ronda Rousey anymore, kind of thing. But it did feel big. I thought, like again, I don't know what the view is out there generally, but seeing Ronda Rousey stood there like pointing at Tony Storm at the top of the ramp and like Tony's reaction to her and things like that, it did feel like, whoa, this is like something new, big, at a level above some of the, maybe not ring work, but at a star caliber level above, a lot of the AEW women's division. It just felt like that's a big shot in the arm that they've got there, getting Ronda Rousey involved here. Like it was, I was pleased to see it. Whereas again, if you'd have said to me 3 months ago, "Do you want to see Ronda Rousey in AEW?" You probably did ask me that. I would have been like, "Nah, not not interested. Not something I want to see right now." But in the moment, I was right on board with it.
Yeah, I mean, first to say, like, it's tough with Ronda Rousey because she's a knobhead with horrendous views. Like, she just is. Like, and some of it she's walked back, and some of which she still hasn't. And I think that's a sticking point with a lot of people. So I think there are people, understandably, who aren't happy to see her, and it is always kind of a weird line to walk with her. But she is a captivating presence, I guess you could also say, as like, or at least she was in that initial WWE run. Like, I think I was higher than most on that initial WWE run. I really enjoyed it as far as like a big star coming in. You know, the big segment with The Rock when she got in the ring with Triple H and Stephanie and all that stuff, and then The Rock fucked off and Kurt Angle was in the match instead, which was a bit of a shame and a downgrade, at least in my opinion. But outside of that was was good stuff, and then it was diminishing returns from there. When she did that one-off in ROH, I think, that's probably when we had the conversation, wasn't it, about what she could look like. But she was such damaged goods from that second run in WWE that was kind of hard to really see it. But it does feel like it, the fact that she's going back to fighting. Obviously, her fight's in May. It's a couple of weeks before Double or Nothing. So the more of the scuttlebutt is, if there's a Toni Storm match, when? Because the way, again, when Tony Khan was asked about it at the presser, he kind of just said, it'd be great to have, she's always welcome in AEW type of thing. Didn't say she signed a deal. Didn't say she's definitely going to be wrestling. We're definitely doing anything with her. He did leave it a little bit open-ended, but obviously, there's going to be something there. And I think Toni Storm was perfect for it. Maybe you get Mercedes involved as well. That could make sense too. But as far as the way Toni Storm, again, the way everything worked perfectly in the Marina match, I think the Toni Storm character, selling the surprise and being a little bit jokey with it, but being up for the scrap worked, and it's an interesting, character kind of juxtaposition between the two people. But I think it could really work as something, and it could, you could keep on with the feeling here, which was Ronda Rousey, like I say, with the big fight coming up on Netflix, and with the WWE is behind us, feeling like that big star and feeling, like you say, like a big headliney tight match, like we just said with the 3 tag teams. You've now got a big star match that this could also be on All In, couldn't it? This could also, I've seen some people saying Double or Nothing, but I can't see, that soon after the fight, there being something there. But I imagine it's a big time pay-per-view match at some point, and she seems to want to be there, obviously, to knock around with Marina and such. And I think it works out for all parties.
And with the way that the angle worked at the end, with obviously the pull apart with the refs and the security, and then Marina sucker punching Tony, again, that just kind of extends that a bit as well, doesn't it? You've got the relationship between Marina and Ronda. It can extend the, in essence, Marina can be in place of Ronda Rousey if she's not going to be on TV, all the time, or a lot sort of in between there as well, because there's that element. You can use Marina to kind of, fill in them spaces between, if Rousey is available, if she's doing one a month or whatever kind of, sort of thing, in the build up to the match, you can still extend things there too. Yeah. So it just felt like well worked the way that was pieced together at the end, really, because when Marina sucker punched her, I was like, oh yes, like class kind of thing. Like, it was, because that's what she should be doing to, coming out of the back of that match, because it just fits the Marina Shafir character as well, really. So just good bit of business all around, I thought.
And to John Service's point there as well, when did this come together, when Netflix were looking at buying WWE, I think, for me, it's just a case of Ronda Rousey fucking hates TKO, and she's just like, it's a great opening if you're Tony Khan in AEW, because she really, really seems to fucking hate TKO, especially WWE, but you could probably say especially UFC as well, with obviously negotiations falling apart for her to do anything there, and her being vocal about the money they, give fighters and stuff, which just led to this Netflix deal. But it is like a weird thing that she's doing this big time Netflix fight, and the wrestling company she's in is AEW rather than WWE. And maybe if the Netflix deal had gone through with Max and all that stuff, it could be even more convoluted going forward with this type of stuff. But it's a big win for AEW, and it's a big get, and it is a big star as well. So very interested in what comes next coming off of that. But moving on from there, obviously they used it as a segue into the next match. We'll get into Jon Moxley's character, and whether he's a face, whether he's a heel, and whatever that means for everything that come. Again, speaking of another return, obviously at the end of this match, but we were dreading this one a little bit. Felt like coming off Grand Slam, which I think we both agreed was yeah, 20 minutes we'll both never get back in our lives. I did wonder whether they go the Joe Punk 3 route or, surprise us all with a 10-minute match where, they didn't use the time limit. There was a little bit of confusion, it felt, in commentary because they kept saying, oh, well, this isn't your normal 20-minute, Continental title match. And it's like, hang on pay-per-views aren't the 60 minutes. And I think, was it McGuinness who was on commentary? I had to point that out at one point. So kind of, I almost feel like maybe as Con, I think said on our Discord, maybe Tony Khan forgot that as well when he came up with the stipulation for this match. But luckily they didn't need the full 60. And it was one of those matches that I'm going to be interested in your take on it because I wasn't feeling it for the bulk of it. It isn't one that changed on rewatch for me. I do feel like, again, our Discord was going mad at like the finishing stretch of this one and getting pulled into it, which I felt like the crowd were as well. And there were some good near falls in there and there was some drama, but I don't want to give a win in the Matty Edwards column here for this one because he's been hating, for some reason, the stable versus stable feud. I mean, I won't go as far as Matty. I absolutely understand why these two stables don't like each other and why they've been, doing this feud. As I've always said, though, I haven't found it the most compelling feud or the most compelling, use of both men. And maybe that lack of investment is maybe some of it's my fault. Maybe the lack of payoff here as far as the two stable stories that they're telling was a little bit of a negative for me as well. But I can't deny, the last 5 minutes dragged me a little bit more into it and really got the crowd going. But I don't know. What say you? How did you feel about this one, watching it in the Gareth silo away from all that discourse?
Yeah, I gotta admit, I really enjoyed this sort of as all in all. I think it did hook me. I think as I'm watching it there, I thought that it was maybe a bit too Mox heavy at points, which has been a bit of a criticism of Moxie of late. Just feeling like maybe eating people up a little bit too much, kind of, but not to the extent that it sort of took me out of it. Maybe that was the limitation that for me that stopped it being absolute tippy top tier kind of thing as far as this match goes. But overall it was a match that I like really enjoyed, and I thought there was just some good things that were worked in there. I think I loved the run, the sort of sequence that came from when like Mox did the curb stomp on Takeshita on the apron, then Takeshita was selling the left eye, which was now bleeding, and then he like nearly got counted out because of the eye. So he shot back into the ring like really quickly, but because it shot back in the ring, and this doesn't happen a lot in wrestling. Like Mox was immediately there to like stick him into the pile driver, and then they got like a 2.99 count out of it on that, and I just thought that from there to there to there to there to there, kind of as they moved around the ring to get to that point, it was. I just thought it was like so perfectly executed. The timing on that, from him getting in the ring straight into the pile driver to the near fall, I loved it. I thought it was so well done. And then for them after that, then Mox just immediately just attacking his eye with headbutts. I was just like, yes, like brilliant, kind of like that's how things would work there. You're saying a bit, as you go through the match there, and there was some of them late. I'll say a kick out at 2.99. Some of them Mox kickouts were at 2.999999. They were as close to pinfalls I've ever seen with a few of them, and like I think it just really kind of like really helped elevate and get the crowd into those. But then when you then work that back the other way, and you had the big Takeshita kicks out, so where you had like him, kick out of the Death Rider, then you kick out of the Avalanche Death Rider, like late on as well. Again, it was just like proper edge of your seat stuff. I was just really buying into those as we got work towards the end of the match. I've got to admit, in my mind, I was pulling for the Takeshita win. So the finish, I kind of was, and it sort of felt it a bit in the building as well, because they'd been put up here to like a absolute hotness there, and then with them Takeshita kick outs, it kind of felt like it was going to go the other way. So then for it to just finish in the way it did feel a little bit like a pin put in a balloon there towards the end, and it's like, oh, just Mox wins again, kind kind of feeling to it, which did just sort of like take me out of it a touch towards the end there, and just I don't know. I think on commentary somebody said like, "Oh, both of these guys come out of this like better, even if you do as a loser." And like that's something I often say about in matches. Like looking at it of like, did they both come out like ahead? I'm not sure if Takeshita did. I kind of thing. I feel like this could have been a good opportunity for Takeshita to get a big win over Moxley here on the pay-per-view and add to him. So that was the unsatisfying bit for me was the finish. But getting to there, I had great time up until the last 3 seconds of this match.
Yeah, and maybe it's the bit of Groundhog Day that's in your brain there as well. Because was it 3 years ago? Somebody mentioned we've seen this before with Takeshita and Moxley, like almost to a beat, and it's all like, well, Takeshita's time will come, and it's like, we are now, several years into Takeshita's AEW run. I'd like to get there. Maybe there's part of that feeling there as well. But like I say, if I was there in the building, would I be losing my mind at like those close kickouts? I probably would. I just didn't, like I say, for all those reasons, feel as connected to it. And I think the post-match is past that as well. Like again, it's just, we talked about it on Weekend Show, obviously the stuff with Ospreay and Eve and all that stuff. It's just like these top level AEW babyfaces continue to shoot themselves in the foot with who they associate with and all that stuff, and it makes it hard to analyze this or feel the way maybe we would have felt not even that long ago when it comes to a big Ospreay return. But obviously he returns in the post match. I will say as a positive, I think we did one of these spotlight reviews when Ospreay was taken out by Moxley and the lads, and I think I was really against it because it was like, I mean, we all know he's injured and he's got to take some time off. We don't need the beatdown angle because by the time he comes back, who knows, what Moxley's going to be or what role anyone's going to be in. And most of the time when you do these stories, like I always think of like Edge and his neck and Austin and one's in WWF, and it's like by the time they come back 18 months later, everyone's in a different universe and nobody is really going, oh, I can't wait for Ospreay to get his big revenge on Moxley. And I kind of felt that here, and I think it speaks as well to just the weirdness of the Moxley character. Again, maybe another disconnect for you in the match, that like the post-match with him, shaking Takeshita's hand and, being sportsman Moxley only for Ospreay to come out, and then now he's got to be heel Death Rider Mox, who's paying for his sins of the past, who's, not quite running away, but he's in the crowd and he's having to stooge a little bit, and maybe they'll cover that, maybe they'll tell that story, maybe it'll be more some kind of babyface respect feud, and I feel like I've said it on every podcast for about 3 months now, but maybe that will be the route to the Death Riders finally turning on him, but again, let it play out as, that string only goes so far, but I don't know. What say you on it? I think they booked themselves into a corner. I still do stand by that point in having to have these two associated with each other now, and I think they should be, on the one hand, be commended with going back to it, not forgetting about it, like a WWE would. But they have created a bit of an issue here with Moxley's presentation over the last while, pretty much as a de facto babyface, and now Ospreay's coming for revenge. Can you connect those 2 points yourself in your head?
Yeah, that's where the dynamic just doesn't feel like it fits, does it? I think it's natural that the need for revenge, should be there, and that, like you say, you commend them on remembering kind of and keeping that logic in place, and keeping that linear level of thinking that comes with it. That that's the sort of thing we do criticize them about when wrestling companies don't do things like that. I had exactly the same thought as you, that maybe this is then the catalyst. Maybe this is what they've been hanging on for and waiting for with the inevitable Death Rider's turn in terms of the dynamic between Ospreay and Moxley, and then what then that might lead to with the rest of the group. I'm not going to fucking hold my breath and wait for that, really, because it could just be that Mox has decided he's now a tweener and things are, changing, altogether in the dynamic of this feud. And then by the end of this, he could just be a face or a heel again, kind of thing, depending on who he's been paired with and how they decide to do the working style there. I think if you do separate obviously the Eve stuff and things that's taken up a big part of the wrestling discourse, and like you say, we discussed it on the Weekend Show. Yep. If you treat this as a character returning to TV in sort of isolation of that, it did feel like a big comeback. It did. I think Ospreay did feel like a big star. I said on Friday, it did feel like there's been an Ospreay-shaped hole at the top of the card in AEW as well. So again, this just brings something that's a bit more of a shot in the arm, really, into that scene there, and it's a different direction for Mox to go here, and again, hopefully it leads to. I mean, you say that about Death Riders. I feel like I say this every time I pop up on this podcast. Hopefully, this now leads to the Okada Takeshita feud that we've all been waiting for, and we're incredibly excited about. A few months ago, that does feel like it's sort of dissipated a little bit, but maybe we can reignite that from here on in. Now these are in different directions, but yeah, it's and then also just from an in-ring point of view, obviously they clearly made the point of letting Ospreay hit a few of his big moves that he's known for, acrobatic stuff as well, just to let the audience know he's back, and he is back, kind of thing. This is a guy who's had neck surgery, and he's going to be limited now, or he's not going to be the guy that you've seen before. He looked in great nick. He was still hitting them moves that went over like massive with the crowd. So again, I felt like it was quite protective of his cachet of who he is and what he's all about and what he means to this crowd, really. So as far as a comeback to TV goes for him, I thought it was really, really well executed, personally.
I think both things can be true. I can be disappointed, on a level for the decisions he makes and the mistakes he continues to make. I think there's only so many times somebody can disappoint you when it comes to the people they associate with and the way they choose to present that. As far as what he was tweeting out last week, but there's also on the human level that you can't escape the fact that this is a person who was injured, who we didn't know when or how he was going to come back, and he's come back in an unbelievably quick amount of time. Like that, I don't know whether he get surgery or not, because good lord, like he's out there doing these dives and almost decapitating himself on the side of the ring, and looking like the old Will Ospreay as far as the way he was moving here and well as well. I'm sure from a personal point of view, like you don't know when you're going to come back, you don't know what it's going to look like when you come back. It seemed like it meant a lot to him to get to be out there again, and to kind of prove he can still do all this stuff and prove that he's probably not going to change as far as the way he works and the risks he takes as well. Like there is obviously like a human side to that as well, and the Americans don't give a fuck about Britt Resmuck that was dragged through last week, and I can't imagine when it comes to All In, many people are going to be thinking about it either. That's just the case really, and I imagine he will be headlining Wembley. I imagine him and MJF. It's the direction here. If you've not been offline, but MJF's been throwing a few tweets Ospreay's way and signaling maybe there's something coming with those, and I can see that whatever story they're telling here with Mox, and let's hope it's one that makes sense character-wise for Moxley. Again, I will not hang my hat on that because I don't really expect it, but I think that will be his placeholder, which then sets us up for the Owen or whatever else, and he's going to be a Wembley headliner by hook or by crook. So yeah, there we go. It's
Stop getting excited about belts getting merged there, mate. Now my head's making me think, take Mox's belt and merge it with MJF and let's get rid of one. But we've been down that route one too many times before.
When it's Tony Khan, when you have one belt versus another, you come out with four. That's just how Tony Khan match works. So we'll end up with more belts, not less, coming out of it. There'll be a unification belt and then an extra belt for that as well. So yeah, that's what's in our future. But again, it's the most AEW pay-per-view ever. The big returns keep coming, and there's still more to go as far as later on the show goes. Up next, obviously we had the Babes of Wrath story continuing versus Megan May and Alina Cross. More of a follow up to the more angle the match that took place on the pre-show, and not a match that I imagine we're going to spend much time on. One that was a pure setup for Bane and Cross to win the AEW Women's Tag Titles and everything that entails. But again, maybe we're fixing a few things as far as we saw it with we're going to see it with the trios when we talk in a little while, as far as not too many people at least having multiple belts, and I think more of that is probably a positive.
Definitely, ultimately it was everything that I wanted. It was get the tag belt off Willow, mean that she's then got just that singles title to worry about, and she can now have a meaningful feud story, hopefully in the next few months, based around that singles title. The tag team with Ali Cameron's run its course to this point. It's done what it needed to do in terms of like establishing the women's tag team belts. But again, they've had Megan Bain doing good stuff, but treading water for far too long. So it was about time to push her into a situation where she does feel like she's a bit more important. And the tag belts are something that outside of having a singles belt is something that just it's going to mean that you're on TV. It's going to mean if it does feel like you're ahead of where you were. I think that so I think the pairing with her and Lena Cross, they look good together as a team. They're almost like, there's part of me that harks back to, it's almost a bit like 80s power teams, tag team wrestlers, where you've got two sort of like big giants on one side. When we were previewing this show, talked about the idea of get the belts on them, get them feuding with Alex Windsor and Jamie Hayter kind of thing. You can see the four of them working well together and having some decent matches. And I'd guess that's probably the direction that they're going to go into here. So it just felt like, didn't outstay its welcome, did exactly the job it needed to do, got the right results, overall, and then it's sets up hopefully the tag team titles to mean something different on TV to just wrestler X who's holding a singles belt and a tag belt at the same time. It just it should do more and mean more going forward. So did what it needed to do for me.
For sure. Well, up next we had Swerve and Brody King. Again, more notable for the post-match with the Kenny Omega return, which obviously I poo-pooed on weekend show. I was like, there's no chance. Obviously, it's been reported I think he was wearing like that. Was he wearing like a Japanese football top or something like that? Some kind of Capcom merch. I'm not sure what it was, but apparently
that's what happens when you don't follow the news, like me, Benno. I was like, and surely Kenny's coming back, and you were like, oh no, he can't. He's in Japan. I was like, when it happened, I was like, yes, one in the eye for the casual not following the news there.
I guess if you go into LA, you don't have to stop in Dubai, so I guess the flights are still possible for Kenny. But I don't know. That's one. But this is one where definitely like the post match is probably more notable than the match. I thought it was a solid enough match, as we talked about. This is Swerve's establishing himself as a heel again, as a bigger heel here. So made sense. Obviously, him going over here with Brody. It was a hard hitting match. They built a lot of it around the exposed concrete on the floor there, and Swerve's continues to do a little bit more stooging than I would like, just to be consistent with the character he was before this heel turn. It's not like he's had a lobotomy. He's supposed to still be the same human being, but he didn't overstep that line too many times here as well. And it felt like obviously the big match is Kenny, which, as we talked about, took place on a Dynamite. I think they were unsure whether Kenny could make this weekend, but maybe that was all bullshit, and he was always going to be here for the big angle post match. But good to see that feud resumed, and good to see a strong win for Swerve. Brody can kind of play in his role as what he is, and I think it's a no-brainer to move on to the bigger and better thing, which is Swerve and Kenny.
Yeah, this is one where the result never felt in doubt going into it. You knew Swerve was getting the win and should have been getting the win as well. I think the important thing was just to keep Brody as strong as possible through this, and again, I think they did that. I think they, he consistently manages to achieve this ability to feel like a threat, feel like somebody who's dangerous, but not lose too much of his aura when he loses at the end of the match. And again, he sort of stuck with that here. I think, to be honest, I thought this match style helped. I think Swerve working in a heel way. It felt like there was, by nature, the style of this match needed to be a bit more kind of aggressive. It needed to be a bit more hard hitting. Swerve wasn't doing moves that he would have been doing if he was in there with somebody smaller and things. So it did feel like it leaned into that heel side of things quite a lot more. But again, this was another one where I just liked the sort of the way the match was put together. It's always going to like land with me when there's like good body part work going on there. But from the point where like Brody side slammed him on top of the barricade on his back, and then he was then immediately going to where he was wrenching him over the middle buckle, sort of in between there, stretching him out on his back, and then straight out of there into the backbreaker on the steps. Then there was like the Bossman slam on the floor that just came after that, which was where Swerve had pulled the mat back as well. So I was just loving Brody King just being like laser focused on taking the back out of Swerve there. I thought really enjoyed Brody's work up to that point. Just some good spots in here as well. I think where there was like where Brody went for that Gonzo bomb, like back on that exposed bit of floor, but when Swerve powered out and hit the vertebraker on the floor, that looked fucking rough. That I was like proper like
that is not a move you should be doing on the floor. Like Jesus Christ, the room for error is small, especially when you're talking about like somebody as big as Brody. God bless him for being up for it.
Like maniac stuff, kind of like. But again, like you'd love to see it. You wait. Is he still alive? Yeah, yes, kind of thing. That was great. Kind of thing,
That's where wrestling's moral line ends, isn't it? Yeah. Or his fans.
Is so like absolutely loved that. And then again, I loved the way that with the finish where like Brody just ate them 2 kicks to the head, like before before Swerve went back to the knee, took the knee out to get him down to land the house call as well. That fit back in with some of the work that had gone previous in the match, but it kept Brody strong, just eating those two bits there as well. So all in all, I had a great time watching this match. It was right up my street for what I like in my wrestling.
The other thing they utilised in this, which again you've missed the discourse, was the 1 count kick out, which in context with everything you said there protects Brody and makes him look like a monster. Again, that's probably the point where Swerve maybe oversells it and stooges a little bit too much for me, but good for him. The only problem is, I don't know if you had that on your notes, but third match on the show that had a 1 count kick out, I think Moxley and Takeshi used it as well. Where else was it? Was it Bucks FDR? There was another match where there was one as well. Yeah. I don't think these road agents are speaking to each other if such a job as a real thing exists, and our friend Rovit would say otherwise, but well, such as that AEW, you just get more everything, and that's kind of the story of this show. Again, including the post match there with Kenny coming back as well, which that felt like the biggest pop I think of the maybe outside of Ospreay, but felt like the biggest surprise anyway, and. Kenny still being involved in the top end of the card is another positive thing of AEW in 2026 as well. Maybe that was the other criticism, as well as doing all the 1 count kickouts. Maybe you could have taken one of these big returns / debuts and put it somewhere else, but I mean, I think Paul said it on our Discord, like, this is just AEW at this point. Like, this is just Tony Khan and XS, and you're going to get multiple of the same thing on the same show. You're going to get the lights going out 17 times, and you're going to get shows like this where it's like, you want more debuts, more, and it's thrown at us, and by the hook or by crook. That's just AEW, isn't it? And that's the formula they've gone with.
Yeah, it almost kind of gets to the point there where the match finishes, and then you're like, right, who's coming out now? Kind of thing. Where which big return or big signings happening here? And definitely on this show, it did kind of, as that went along. Like
Tony's got his cruxes, like we always criticize WWE for. They've got their hooded men, and Tony Khan's got his lights out return stuff, and yeah. There's probably moderation would probably be key. I don't want to be the old man here, but I do feel like there's probably a happy medium there. But yeah, again, it's AEW, and it does feel like it's what we signed up for at this point.
But just seeing Kenny back again, just great, because the Kenny Swerve stuff just felt again top tier when that was going on TV a month or so ago, and I am genuinely excited about the idea of Kenny and Swerve extending this and just working through having a series of matches. It's proper feud of the year stuff, isn't it? You can just see that these two working together. There's a lot that they can get out of this year, really. So yeah, genuinely excited for this one, and when it's coming, when you say it's sort of like the repetition of it. Seeing Ospreay come back at that level, seeing Kenny come back at that level, it does just feel like, oh, there you go, like big shot in the arm at the top end of the card there too. So again, it does just leave you optimistic for the next few months.
Well, speaking of AEW giving us a lot, still 5 matches to go here on this card. At least one of them we've talked about in some detail already. But yeah, coming up next, I do feel a little bit. I didn't mention it, but I did feel like Swerve and Brody. maybe it's the point I was getting tired watching this, but it definitely felt like the crowd got a little bit tired. And I think, again, the point where that you could really tell they were tired is when we went to the AEW Women's World Title match with Tekla and Chris Statlander, which we said it on the preview, and when it came to reality, there was no reason for this to be 2 out of 3 falls, especially on a card that was going to run 4.5 hours. And I think it suffered for it. I don't know if I don't know what it is from a chemistry point of view with these two, or whether it's a Statlander thing or what. As much as I really, or a Tekla thing, as much as I really enjoy as a character, and she's been a breath of fresh air at the top of this division, and long may it continue. She's been one of the real positive stories about AEW the last while. Just didn't click again for me, and maybe that was it. You know, that you do a 2 out of 3 falls match, and you've got to have things be a fall that wouldn't ordinarily be a finish in a regular match, and you've got to make those kinds of concessions to make it work, and make it work as a 2 out of 3 falls matches. Work as well as at a singles match might, but it was just too much at this late stage in the card, and it felt like that for the crowd here as well.
Yeah, and again, I think on the preview show as well, I talked about the questioning why it needed to be the best 2 out of 3 stipulation, and sort of made the point around, well, it kind of gives the opportunity to keep the belt on Tekla, but also like give Stat something as well, mean that she can sort of like get some get a pinfall on the champion. And I think the way that this was laid out here, with obviously the first fall with Tekla cheated essentially to get that fall, grabbing the bottom rope out of the sight of the referee Paul Turner when it happened, so Tekla's got the pin there, but she hasn't really, kind of thing, because it's something that the referee shouldn't have been allowing anyway. So that felt like, she's got a pin on Statlander, but she shouldn't really. Then obviously Statlander gets the second fall in the Saturday Night Fever, and so getting that nice clean 1, 2, 3 there. So there you go. There's one for your big babyface ex-champ. And then in the third fall, obviously they had the ref bump, and Statlander gets the visual pin there as well. So she did win, kind of thing. She should have won 2-0, really, kind of thing, because Tekla had cheated for that first one, but then Tekla obviously just ends up getting the getting as the backs turned because of the ref taking the belt away from Statlander, meaning she can hit the spear and then the curb stomps for the 1, 2, 3. So it's good heel stuff, in that she's won by absolute nefarious means for both pinfalls, really, in terms of the way that's happened. I guess it's good for Statlander in that she's as a babyface stayed strong, still gives her that thing of she has beaten the champion there, but it just needs to be over this, and somebody else needs to now move in there and be working with Tekla at the top level. And it's that feels like that now is the route that things are going to be going from here, because you talk about maybe the crowd being tired and up to that point. I think Statlander's just a crowd killer. I just think she because they were getting behind Tekla, a bit like as much as she was healing, the crowd were like, it felt like they were more with her. That she was definitely getting the bigger reactions and even some sort of level of sort of like babyface pops for some of the stuff that she was doing. That she, you want to tread that line carefully, I think, with Tekla right now. But people just aren't asked about Chris Statlander. The crowds just aren't asked about her, and then so there's a rebuild job. That she's always going to have this cachet within AEW for the belts she's had and the positions that she's been in and how long she's been on TV and stuff like that. But I think they really need to think carefully about how they use her for the next 12 months, because she absolutely shouldn't be in the title picture. And probably they need to give her some kind of feud that's a bit more of a heated blood feud that's just away from a title or something like that, to give people a reason to want to get behind her. But I'm questioning whether she's got it in her, to be honest.
There's been some scuttlebutt, like again, you've only seen it. oh, is Statlander leaving AEW? Is the WWE interest? Was something I saw somebody mention. I'm not reporting it. I've not seen it fully reported as news, and it would seem odd to protect it in the way they did here, and not make it, a very definitive win for Tekla, and having to use the bullshit at the end. You would think they'd do it in a very different way, but maybe a change of scenery. I can't see her strengths really being a WWE run, but yeah, there's just something about her that doesn't click. Like, she's got a hardcore and she's got a people who really love her, but as far as making that next step or really just resonating, if I'm just talking personally with me, she never has, and she didn't as champion. And we talked about it. Yeah, I think you must have to do this. Is like we're establishing Tekla as hopefully long-term AEW Women's Champion. The rematch made sense as the first big pay-per-view defense, and then we move on. I think it's definitely time to move on. And yeah, I wonder what Statlanders, even if there's no legs to those rumors, what a future looks like in the AEW Women's Division, because yeah, she's not been and that's what happens when you give someone an AEW World title run when they're not quite ready for it. What you do after that, and I think she's in a bit of a no man's land now going forward. But yeah, moving on from there into the another match that I did recommend you not skip. One that I've gotten the rave reviews from some, and not the best masks on display. We'll be getting to that in a little while with another match. But the masked Kevin Knight and Mike Bailey teaming up with Mystico, who is now All Elite. That's been made official. Obviously, they announced that after the match as well, in there against Okada and Aussie Open. But yeah, your fun party trios match is pretty much what all this needed to be, and is exactly what it was, as we talked about. I think that as a trio, as a belt, I think the trios is one of those ones where it's absolutely fine to flip-flop it. Maybe we've now landed in a place where, yeah, it's great. There you go. Mystico is now playing the role of Hangman Page. He's got no world title aspirations, at least at the minute in AEW. And Kevin Knight and Mike Bailey, perfect to be trios champions. I imagine it'll flip again in another couple of weeks. But yeah, I think it's landed where it needed to. And I think we got a fun match along the way as well. I imagine there are more serious things for Kyle Fletcher to do, hopefully moving out of this little run in a reunion run as Aussie Open. And I imagine, as you say, Okada Takeshita is on the cards for it at some point here. But yeah, it felt a little bit like a Get the Lads on the Card match, but was a bit of a surprise hit of the night. What say you?
I mean, it wasn't a hit with me. It was all right. I thought it was. I don't know, jet geeks coming out in their fucking masks and wrestling in their masks. I was just like, come on, no, that wasn't like resonating with me with that one. It was, I don't know, it's not my kind of match, is it? It was just sort of like that 100-mile-an-hour, just that tornado style, bit of a. It felt like a bit of a Mystico showcase during the match and just a Mystico showcase after the match kind of thing, which, if he is signed and things like that, fair enough. It looks like it was it was used quite heavily for those purposes. The main outcome for me was like, I didn't want fucking Okada and Kyle Fletcher to be tied up as two other guys who are holding a singles belt and also holding a meaningless trios belt as well, which means that they get forced into being involved in matches like this. So I just wanted the titles off them. It never made sense to me that Hangman was paired up with Jet Speed anyway and the champion with those belts. It feels far more logical for Mystico to be doing that. Feels like a good use of Jet Speed on TV, to have them continue in that six-man division in a world where you've got the Bucks and FTR and Cope and Cage are going to be like top guys kind of, feuding over the tag team titles as well. So everything about this just made absolutely perfect sense, to me for, what it was about. And I get it. People love this style of match as well. So I'm sure there was a lot of people there who, after maybe a bit of come down off the Statlander Tekla stuff, this, probably did get some people off the seats a bit more. The Mystico stuff was massively well received after the match as well, with the live crowd as well. So
yeah.
All in all, as an overall bit of business, it worked, but not a match that I'm ever going to think about for a single second of my life ever again.
It's interesting because it's one of those matches that, like, absolutely going in. If you told me you could cut, 3 or 4 matches from this card, I think it would be a prime candidate to go. And there's one of those coming up in a while as well. Speaking of trios, but like, in its moment, and again, that may be a positive as far as like this long card went. I think this was placed really well because the crowd did feel like they were flagging. So give them a bit of popcorn, give them fucking Kevin Knight doing his daft UFO move, give them Mystico flying, give the three lads flying around doing topes, give me Speedball Mike Bailey and his sore knees. Like, it had all of it. It had everything. Gareth, I can't believe you didn't like it, but it literally was that. It was almost like an energy generator for the crowd, and like, yeah, it worked. They didn't have enough energy to necessarily sing Mystico's song at the end. Please give up on that, Tony. It's never happening. You've got to be in very specific markets for that to work. Well, very specific arenas, actually, not even markets, considering where this show was. But yeah, there we go. It's he's got his dream. Mystico is signed. He is all elite now going forwards, and I imagine we'll continue to try with that. But not a bad role for him either. I think he's presumably going to continue to split his time with CMLL because, like, I know we don't closely follow the lucha scene, but my God, what a loss it would be if they lost him from CMLL. So hopefully it's more one of those co-signings rather than like we're going to talk about in a bit, War Dogs type signing, where it sounds like those lads are not going back to New Japan anytime soon outside of Forbidden Door.
Yeah, and again, it does just, if that is the case, then being part of the the trios titles, it almost feels like the perfect place for him to slot into, because then you're not having to, as Tony Khan's done a lot in the past, get somebody involved for a bit and then they disappear off TV for a while and things like that before they then come back, where they feel massively meaningful and then massively forgotten, and then they come back and feel slightly more meaningless as when they do. I think this just feels, it just feels like it's the perfect place for him to be now, and it does give the trios title a feeling of some element of meaning when it does feel like it's the primary focus for the three guys involved too. So yeah,
sure.
No complaints from me.
Well, almost there. The next match, Andrade and Bandito, the one that took us by surprise on Weekend Show, even though we've seen it be built, but it always surprises. Yeah, I guess Tony Khan can't surprise you with the amount of matches he's going to add to shows, so you're going to get something like this as well. I think this may be underachieved a little bit. Again, maybe it was placement on the card. Maybe it's the fact that I get so much entertainment value out of Andrade with, like, just how fucking great he looks right now and how much he knows it, and all of the stuff with the women on the outside and the stripping spots, down to Bandito trying to copy him, getting his pants caught, and very clearly called on the fly Andrade kneeing him in the face, which is fucking brilliant. Like, I feel like I could watch him all day, while at the same time, it's all very unserious and, a lesser match than maybe it felt like in advertising. I don't know if you'd feel the same way. I enjoyed Bandito coming up with the Super Dragon match. Obviously, that's always going to work on me, but it always feels a bit odd that he's one where it's like, I said about Brody almost as a compliment. He's got his place on the card, and it's fine for him to lose for Swerve in a spot like that. Bandito's more of a geek than he should be in AEW, considering, one, and the belt he's got, if you are going to still take that seriously in 2026. But two, considering the goodwill that was behind him, especially, that little mini push he got on TV towards the end of it, or the start of this year as well. I just feel like he just never get quite as low, and he is just somebody who's kind of out there to be not a jobber to the stars, but he's almost always going to be the loser in spots like this, and he does come across as a little bit of a loser. So all that to say, like I say, this late point in the card, it was all right. It wasn't, it probably wasn't necessary for the pay-per-view, but there were at least a couple of things to enjoy from it.
Yeah, I think this was one for me where, like, it was an uptick from the previous match for me. This one, like, this was probably like, say, 3.75 level for me, as something that I thought was, really good and like really enjoyed, without it maybe necessarily achieving the heights that it could have been, and probably shouldn't have done. Really, it maybe shouldn't have been more than that. That really as well, with like placement on the card and things like that. I just thought, like, again, with that previous match not been so much my type of match, I thought with this, given that they've both got big high spots in them as well, I just felt like it just felt better balance, really, just in terms of like the pace of the match, where high spots were placed, just an element of logic, an element of things working in there with the knee and the head, with the suplexes and things like that. It felt like something that was just pieced together in a much much better way, but while still having significant like exciting big spots that happened over the course of the match. And I thought the build into the finish, like I thought was great. Like I was like really this was literally the last thing I watched before I came on air, and I was just like glued to it, kind of thing. Like I was almost like losing track of time as we caught into it there, because that run where you had Bandidos going for those the X knees, and then there was the counter with the 21 plex with the elbow from Andrade for that near fall, that reverse heel kick like move that Bandido does, where it like dropped him from the shoulders and kicking him from behind again, like that just seemed to just go over so well with the live crowd. Looked so unique. Loved seeing the 21 plex from the mat as opposed from the ropes as well. But just the pace kind of thing that was just like built between those things that they put together at the end there. It just really felt like they went into the finish hot, and then when like Andrade obviously getting the hitting the DM from the ropes and tried to go for it in the middle of the ring a couple of times. Again, it just felt like it had that bit of logic built into it there. So all in all, this was one that I quite happily would have thought before the show, yeah, does that even need to be on the card? But actually, the purpose that it served and like the enjoyment I got out of it, I was pleased that it was there. Really, it was. I thought it was good stuff, and loving Andrade at the minute. I think again, it just sort of helped build into that enjoyment of him that I'm having at the moment. I'm exactly the same as you with. Yeah, just enjoyable. Like, he's just a guy who's like, he feels like a proper wrestling character who knows his character. He feels like he's having bags of fun doing what he is, whereas for so many years watching Andrade, he's felt like a guy who almost doesn't want to be there. Now he looks like the epitome of a guy who wants to be there, and it's just like leaning into the role as much as he can. And he's a guy who just, I'm made up to see him on my telly when he comes out all the time. He's been like one of the genuine high spots of AEW for the last probably two months. Seeing him there, which is good. But to your point about Bandido, like I can't believe this is where he's at, because again, back end of last year, coming out of that tag team run and things, some of the matches that he was involved in there, he felt like on fire. He felt like a guy who you're looking at and you're going like, oh, 2026 is going to be a big year for Bandido. Like, he's getting great crowd reactions. The work's as solid as fuck. He's working with people of different sizes and styles and putting on banger after banger. He's an afterthought, isn't he? He's just like lost in the shuffle, and it's almost like 10 steps forward and 300 steps back. It feels like for him, like over the course of the last 9 months.
When you've got a roster that's as stacked as AEW's is, it's fucking great. We'll talk about it in the next match. It's fucking great that, Tony Khan's got the bank book to be like, I'll sign him, and I'll sign him, and I'll sign him. And again, it's kind of more. It's a AEW's USP to have all of this talent under contract, but somebody has to lose out. And I feel like Bandido's one of those people. It's like, no, you can't, it's like Kyle Fletcher being, in the trios division right now. You can't feature everyone at every time. You can't push everybody. It's hard to balance it. He's just one of those people. He's not fully on the outside looking in, but he's just that bit out of favor compared to everybody else, because not everybody can, be in that position. And he feels like somebody who should in a less crowded roster, and maybe that's something on him. I don't know. I think it's more the booking. It's more the decision to make him ROH champion and everything that comes with that. It's just, it's something about it just feels lesser than you would expect for somebody of, like, say, Bandido's connect. Say it's not just the in-ring skill and the work, which there was some good example of here. It's more the connection, isn't it? It's more that side of it. He does have a connection with the AEW fan base, and there is something there you could do with, but never seems to really get going, does Bandido. But oh well, like I say, enjoyed the Super Dragon tribute, at least, even with the fingers up as well. And that mixtape might be coming one day on a grapple show near you, just to put Gareth through it as well. But
on,
there we go. We
went bags.
Get them ready. There you go. There's a lot of bags on Andrade's enjoying right now, but it's not being bags. Anyway, moving on. We have the trio. The other trios match, which I did say to you was skippable when you were suffering for time to get this show ready. And you won't have seen obviously the post show comments where just a quote here from Gabe Kidd: fuck, New Japan something fuck. He cut a promo on the post show about how, he doesn't give a fuck about Tanahashi or New Japan and everyone who's criticizing him. Well, so clearly building something for Forbidden Door, it seems. But also, if you're going to do that, well, why would you have these lads lose in their first big pay-per-view match? Because it was absolutely the match that everybody watching this live went, what, there's another match before the main event? Oh, for fuck's sake. And it was this, that absolutely, to Platt's point, there was multiple matches on this show that, as good as they were, they'd be good on a Collision too. You maybe didn't necessarily need them on this pay-per-view. This was the poster boy for that. But I did think, I guess we talked about it a little bit on the weekend show. The War Dogs did make the most of the time. They were aggressive. Like the stipulation and the brawling, the tornado-style trios match really worked in their favor. I wish Gabe Kidd wouldn't go around on all fours like he's a literal dog. I think if you could leave that behind and keep to the more serious stuff, that would be great. But he came across well. David Finlay came across well. Darby Allin tried to kill himself. That's what you get in these types of matches. Orange Cassidy was very over. Also, Roderick Strong was there. But there was a lot of fun to be had here. I just don't understand. Well, at the end of it, what do you gain from, Orange Cassidy going over here and the War Dogs losing? Clark Connors is just dead in the water. I don't think... Give me the stats. I don't think he's won a match in AEW. He is literally, he's a pin eater for both Gabe and David Finlay, because clearly they don't want David Finlay to drop a pin this early in his AEW run, and they clearly see Gabe Kidd as a project. But it just begs the question, well, why have them lose in the first place then? It made no sense from a booking point of view, and could have done better as something that you have on a Collision or a Dynamite or a main event, and I'm sure we're going to get it as a rematch going forward. You really didn't miss much, Gareth, even if it started promising. The end was just perplexing for me.
And it does, that even just what you're saying there, it does just feel weird. They've come in as a bit of a featured act over the last couple of weeks, and then you have them lose on the first pay-per-view. That feels a bit bizarre, like you say. But
feels like an oversight.
Again, I don't know. Obviously, I've not seen this match. So you saying there that Cassidy's the one to get the win. It feels like he's lost more on TV in the last 4 months, Orange Cassidy, than he's lost in the previous 5 years in AEW as well. So why do you suddenly feel the need to throw him out and get him the victory on the pay per view as well? It feels odd and not a bit joined up. And again, this was one, I think, when I was asking the question of things being consequential and things that I needed to watch, that Roddy Strong element in there, you were thinking, is something going to happen with Roddy here, kind of thing? Is there potentially some story beat that's happening within there? There was also in my head around the thing around the War Dogs and Finlay been involved. I was thinking, is there lights go out and Jay White's coming back or something? There was things around this that potentially thought there might have been some broader consequences there, but it just seems like no, just. Yep, new act, loses to old face.
And if you'd have asked me, should AEW bring the Dogs in as a concept, I would have said no. I would agree. I would absolutely sign Gabe. I would have and I like Clark Connors. And to be honest, I don't even hate David Finlay, but they are the poster boys for dead era. If it's not House of Torture, it's these lads as throwing Drilla Maloney, obviously the other associate, is a New Japan that none of us really wants to watch anymore, and to just transport them to your roster now just feels a little bit like addition by subtraction or subtraction by addition, however that goes. But I do think the work has been mostly good. I do think, despite me thinking that, they've been, solid as an act and do feel like something maybe you could carve out a niche for them. Maybe a Jay White program, or maybe they're just literally there to create some interest in Forbidden Door, because Lord knows straight up AEW and New Japan matches aren't going to do it. So maybe that little bit of needle from Gabe makes sense when we get there. But it felt like there was a plan up until this pay-per-view, and now I'm a little bit questioning it. But again,
Tony Khan trios maths. Losing on the pay-per-view here probably means that they've earned a title shot on Collision against Jet Speed and Mystico. So probably be talking in a week's time about them holding the gold.
There you go. And outside of that, obviously, there was the main event, which we've already covered. If anyone's watching along live, we covered it at the top with Terry Funk, MJF, and Hangman Page. But that was it. That's the show. There you go. Overall thoughts. Some have been calling it the greatest AEW pay-per-view of all time. I just thought it was a very good pay-per-view. I think that pretty much sums it up. Some low points, some very high points. But it was one of the most AEW pay-per-views of all time, as we've said a few times today. So maybe that speaks to some people's strong feelings on it. But overall, as a show, continues for me AEW's good run as far as shows I've enjoyed. I think we said it. It's that weird juxtaposition of the TV right now. I don't think much of the TV maybe necessarily excited about the individual stories to these matches, but pretty much every TV over the last 6 weeks, despite that, I've enjoyed the standalone shows, and I kind of feel that here, some misgivings aside, as a standalone show, 4.5 hours, I might have wanted to spend 3.5 hours on it instead, but wasn't 4.5 hours badly spent. I don't know if you feel the same today, having done it amongst school runs and whatever else.
Yeah, I think if you're thinking this is the best AEW pay-per-view of all time, I'd love to know what you're smoking and fucking give me some, because it's certainly not at that level, but it's I thought it was really good. It was a really enjoyable show. I had like my misgivings that we talked about on the preview show. I've not been loving the TV, like building into it. We said on that particular show, but AEW, they'll turn up. There'll be some, there'll be some cracking matches. There'll be some, good angles or reveals or things like that. That'll probably happen. They'll deliver on the evening, and they did deliver on the evening. I think. As far as like good matches go, I was proper into that Bucks FTR opener that we've spoken about there. I really, really enjoyed the Mox Takeshita match. I really, really enjoyed the Swerve Brody King match. And even though we've had our like criticisms about certain things, I got enough out of say like Tekla against Statlander, enough to enjoy that quite a lot too. Had a enjoyable enough time watching, Marina Shafir against Tony Storm, which I felt like over-delivered. But then as well, I think some of the decision-making on the card felt like it was, as well as having that focus on trying to put the best card on the night that they could from a match point of view, I think they looked after tomorrow a bit as well there, with just some of the decisions around getting the tag belt off Willow, getting the trios tag belt off Akada, Fletcher and Davis there. They felt like the right moves. Some of the comebacks sort of felt like they freshened things up and got you excited for things further down the line there. So if it didn't tick the box of awesome match, as sometimes AEW pay-per-views do, I think it ticked quite a good variation of matches that hit at different levels, like across the piece. So all in all, yeah, like good pay-per-view start to end in terms of what they delivered. I just wish they would learn this lesson that they don't need to be this long. Two of them matches, 100% didn't need to be on this show. Could have been on Dynamite and made your Dynamite, filled 45 minutes of TV there with really strong stuff if they needed to do. But hey, AEW is going to AEW, aren't they, when it comes to pay-per-view, lads? Got to get your money's worth.
That's it. You're gonna get multiple spots. You're gonna get multiple similar booking, and you're also gonna get this Tony Khan insistence on longer matches is better, more matches is better. People are still having those conversations about why would you complain? You're getting more wrestling. It's like same way I'd complain if a film I went to see in the cinema was 7 hours instead of 2, or football. They changed the Premier League so it's not 90 minutes anymore. It's 180 minutes. It'd be like I'm getting more football, but it's not going to be as good as it. Things have double albums is the example I gave Hamlet when we were going to record this week. Not most double albums kind of suffer because a single album with all of the hits on one album is usually better than the filler that you have to put in to make a double album. You might be getting more for your money's worth, but you're not necessarily getting a better overall product. But again, we were all just shouting into the void with it at this point, aren't they? I don't think there's anybody who's reasonable that doesn't have that take at this point. But yeah, AEW is going to AEW. But yeah, I'm with you as far as cards go. It felt a bit like, like a peak ROH card or a peak, even like an early 90s WCW card that I almost feel like out of context. In 20 years when the retro podcasters are going back and watching AEW shows, if you just watch this as a standalone show, is it going to give you a bit of everything AEW was good at, in its whatever its peak years we end up deciding where? I think, yes, that's very much what it was as well. So I do think history will look kindly on it. But outside of that, I haven't prepared any news for this. I'll go through that on weekend show this week with whoever I'm on with. But just to throw a quick one at you there before we do get out of here, Gareth, just to tidily take it up to the 2-hour point. Have you got your all-in tickets with pre-sale being open this week? And you look on your face now. I'm wondering, are you aware that the AEW all-in pre-sale started this week? What's your thought process?
Yeah, definitely not got me tickets. I'll be hanging on. Not going to sell out, is it, mate?
Well, there's 14,000 at 25 tickets currently available, according to our friends at WrestleDix. I did see a few people on the Discord saying there still are, some of the cheap seats in the gods, the £30 tickets are still available. But I imagine that allocation's probably going to go. I did note as well, it was funny, the second the AEW tickets went on sale, I put it in our Discord, our group chat. I immediately got I think everyone else would have got this email from WWE being like, oh, just so you know, our European tour is currently on sale, and we're in these countries and these cities, get your tickets now. Nothing's a coincidence, and they absolutely did that on purpose. But I imagine they're probably not putting too much of a dent in the people who are buying Wembley tickets at this point.
Well, you can probably buy AEW tickets for about 50 quid, or you could go to the WWE show for $9,000 or something like that to sit in the.
I think the cheapest was like 150 or something daft like that.
Sit in the cheap seats. So yeah, you do the comparisons there and decide on what you want to go and see. But yeah, I'll be no rush to buy them tickets. I'll be waiting to see how things fall out on that front. Are you going to be making the trip home, mate? Jumping on a plane? Got your tickets?
I think so. If I do, you know me, I'll be on the old blue light on the day, or I'll be seeing what's available on the day. That's the lesson I learned from the first year. But yeah, doesn't buying a ticket or not doesn't indicate whether I'm coming, because that tends to be how I do things. But yeah, I'll be leaving it and seeing what's going on. Platt saying there, yeah, £105 for section 110. I think that's a good deal. Better deal than what you get for WWE. That'll be back row, I think, for the WWE show as well. But yeah, if anybody's had any look in the pre-sale, let us know in the comments. Let us know how you found the process as well. And very quickly as well, before we get out of here, did you watch the show on Triller, or did you watch it on my AEW? I did hear some mix. That was something I meant to mention going through the review. I did find for the first time ever, Gareth, on Triller, I was bigging them up last week, saying I've never had an issue with Triller. Like, I can't remember what match it was. Maybe it was around the Tony Storm match. Stream died on Triller. Took them a few seconds to get it running again as well. And apparently in the replay on Triller, there's a 30-second to a minute gap from the pay-per-view that's still not been resolved. I'm told the my AEW stream wasn't the greatest of quality, and the UI isn't the greatest, and I'm pretty sure they had audio issues on HBO Max as well. So I don't know whether my AEW is just throwing at a fly in the ointment that has affected all the other services. But yeah, wasn't picture perfect this time, and that's unusual for an AEW pay-per-view.
Yeah, I watched it on Triller. I was going to sign up for my AEW, and I forgot to do it. But then I saw an email that it had been ordered on my account on Triller come through. So I thought, oh, Benno must have.
I did pay, just to clarify. I did pay out of my account.
Oh yeah. I thought, oh, Benno must have ordered it. Nice one.
And then you look at your bank and go, what?
I don't need to order my AEW. So I was like, oh, I was made up.
You bought it up,
just hit play on that, and then but it was jerky like at points as well. It felt like it was like losing sync like quite a few times through there. So yeah, we'll see. But yeah, with my AEW, it's probably always better to wait for the second pay-per-view, isn't it? If you're going to be ordering something via that route, let the early adopters have the problems, and then let them fix them before you dive in when you've got other options.
Definitely teething issues, I think. But yeah, they offered me a good deal. It was ended up being like £15. I think it was like $19 or something like that on Triller. I don't know if that's usual or not, but yeah, basically my IPTV wasn't playing ball, Gareth. So there you go. My round, mate. Every now and then I will get one. But there we go. That was the pay-per-view, and that's the experience. Let us know what your experiences were watching it, and obviously, yeah, keep an eye out for everything we've got coming up. As Gareth said, Stone Cold Crazy coming soon, as well as Retro, and obviously check out Fed and Breakfast if you haven't already. And we do, if Matthew Edwards is out there waiting for the big reveal, we do have the March mixtape coming this weekend, but neither me or Gareth have actually finalised our matches for that yet. So if you've got any suggestions of matches that I might like from March, let me know, because I'm actually struggling to come up with matches for the March mixtape. I've got a short list, but I will narrow it down if I'm not hit by inspiration in the morning.
I'll send you the full Grapple data export so you can filter on March, and then you can filter by star ratings and promotions and things like that, and make your pick from there. That's what I'll be doing. Got a few contenders, but yeah, need to narrow it down.
Line up on the Discord coming, I imagine, at some point tomorrow. But yeah, outside of that, definitely check all that out. Obviously, we'll have an Ask Grapple and a 5-to-1 coming at the end of the month. But outside of that, thank you, patrons. Thank you, live patrons, for tuning in live with us tonight, as well as our live YouTube members. And thank you to our Patreon kings and queens of the mountain, Corin Laughlin, Eddie Sideburns, Chris Platt, Kogak, Sophie Hitchcock, Sam Mulvaney, and Marty Ellis. We will catch you all again on the next one. Good night, all.
See ya. Now, put Never Enough by Turnstile in the back end of this. Great choice by AEW. One of my songs of the year 2025.
There you go. Good night, all.